It has happened yet again. Presidential hopeful Herman Cain enjoying another strong showing among voters this week. Cain taking second place behind Ron Paul at the Values Voters Summit in Washington, winning 23% of the vote, 7 points higher than Rick Santorum, and holding a double-digit lead over Rick Perry and Michelle Bachmann. Now, this follows Cain's surprise victory in a Florida straw poll last month. So is the former pizza chain executive more than a flash in the pan in this race, and what does he need to do to stay in the spotlight and keep the spread?
We have a top tier. It is Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, and Michelle Bachmann.
We have a new top tier, and it's Perry, Mitt Romney, and Bachmann.
There's now a top tier in this race, at least for now, of Romney, Perry, and Bachmann.
I think that's fair to say.
Really fair to say? You're not forgetting, I don't know, anyone, say, an ideologically consistent 12-term congressman who came within less than 200 votes of winning the straw poll? Isn't anyone going to give that gentleman a little?
All right, now, what you got to tell me what you think of this headline in something called the Daily Caller. Quote, poll, Romney leads New Hampshire, Huntsman third, Perry fourth. Now, do they know how to count? Why would they omit saying who was in second?
Well, you know why? Ron Paul.
But is there a media bias against him? Just from the media's point of view, isn't he good for the media because he challenges Republican orthodoxy and causes debate and generates and stimulates the discussion about ideas that the other Republicans don't want to talk about?
Well, that's right. And it's because the other Republicans don't want to talk about it. It's because he is such an extraordinary candidate.
This is my Bank of America card. It has my account numbers on it, has my savings account and checking account. I want to come inside at this time and close my accounts.
Let him close.
So wait a minute.
Also a Bank of America account holder, and I will be closing my account also today. Day after day, Bank of America is out there throwing families out of their homes. Bank of America has foreclosed on more homes than any bank, and it doesn't do its part to make sure families get fair loan modification to help them stay in their homes. After getting $230 billion in taxpayer-funded bailouts and banks and backstops, you think they'd be grateful? But did our community see any of the money? No!
That ain't right!
That ain't right.
They took our money.
On top of that, the bank doesn't even pay its fair share of taxes.
They don't pay taxes.
Congressman Paul.
Since the Federal Reserve is the engine of inflation, creates the business cycle, produces our recessions and our depressions, the Federal Reserve obviously is a very important issue. And fortunately tonight we have a former director of the Federal Reserve at Kansas City. So I have a question for Mr. Cain. Mr. Cain, in the past, you've been rather critical of any of us who would want to audit the Fed. You said you've used pretty strong terms that we were ignorant and that we didn't know what we were doing. And therefore, there was no need for a Fed audit anyway, because if you had one, you're not going to find out everything because everybody knows everything about the Fed. But now that we have found and we've gotten an audit, we have found out an awful lot on how special businesses get, bailed out. Wall Street, the banks and special companies, foreign governments. And you said that you advised those of us who were concerned and you belittled, you say, call up the Federal Reserve and just ask them to get the PR person. So do you still stick by this, that this is frivolous, or do you think it's very important? 64% of the American people want a full audit of the Fed on a regular basis.
Mr. Cain.
First of all, you have misquoted me. I did not call you or any of your people ignorant. I don't know where that came from.
I'll get it for you.
All right? Now, so you got to be careful.
Alright, we're gonna beat up a bum here.
It's a shocking phenomenon, a sadistic pastime for all too many teenagers, bum bashing, brutally attacking the homeless. Caught on surveillance video, they beat them with bats, taser them, and that ball of fire is a homeless person being torched.
With the 999 plan.
It's a 9% flat corporate tax, a 9% flat income tax, and a new 9% national sales tax.
London is burning along with other parts of England, and the United States may want to take note. More than 560 people arrested in London alone after the last 3 nights of violence. The city's jails are full. When you look at some of these pictures, it's hard to believe this is London. This is one of the great cities in the world, not some third world outback with a ragtag government. Civilized. Looting, fires, rioting, attacks on police. Residents say it's like a war zone, and that there is a carnival atmosphere surrounding these gangs of hooded youth.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Is there a plan for a new world order, a one world government, and how do we stop it?
Well, I think even our first President Bush said that the New World Order was in tune, and that's what they were working for. The UN is part of that government. They're working right now very significantly for a North American Union. That's why there's a lot of people in Washington that don't care too much about our borders. They have a philosophic belief that national sovereignty is not important. It's also the reason I have made very strong suggestion that we need not be in the United Nations for our national security.
What do you think about our borders and the immigration policy?
Our borders have been totally neglected. We worry more about the borders between North and South Korea and between Iraq and Syria than we do about our own.
Absolutely.
Just recently, a bunch of our border guards were picked up and sent and enticed to go over to Iraq. It's insane. I mean, we should have more border guards, and the only way you can afford it and get the personnel is bring our troops home, worry about ourselves. We don't even have the money to finance this world empire that we operate under. We have to borrow almost $3 billion a day just to pay
Hitler has often protested that his plans for conquest do not extend across the Atlantic Ocean, but his submarines and raiders prove otherwise. And so does the entire design of his new world order. For example, I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the new world order.
More than 200 political prisoners were burned to death at this concentration camp near Leipzig. Others, among the original total of 350 inmates, were shot down by German elite guards as they dashed from the prison huts to celebrate the arrival of American troops outside the city. The atrocity story is told by the few who managed to survive. They relate how 12 SS troopers and a Gestapo agent lured 220 starving prisoners into a big wooden building at this camp, sprayed the structure with an inflammable liquid, and then applied the torch. Machine guns set up at various vantage points mowed down many victims who ran from the burning building. Some miraculously escaped the hail of bullets, but were electrocuted by the live wires of a fence, which was the final hurdle for those fleeing the flames.
I think Americans just don't know sometimes which Mitt Romney they're dealing with. Is it the Mitt Romney that was on the side of against the Second Amendment before he was for the Second Amendment? Was before he was before these social programs from the standpoint of he was for standing up for Roe versus Wade before he was against Roe versus Wade? He was for race to the top. He's for Obamacare, and now he's against it. I mean, we'll wait until tomorrow and see which Mitt Romney we're really talking to tonight.
Governor Romney?
I'll use the same term again. Nice try.
I do not believe we need new legislation. I do not support any new legislation.
What Ronald Reagan did in 1983.
I'm not going to raise taxes. What I mean
reform at those federal levels.
Congressman Paul, you're from Texas. Does your governor deserve all that credit?
Not quite. I'm a taxpayer there. My taxes have gone up. Our taxes have doubled since he's been in office. Our spending has gone up double. Our debt has gone up nearly triple. So, no, and 170,000 of the jobs were government jobs. So I would put a little damper on this, but I don't want to offend the governor because he might raise my taxes or something. But I would like to mention something that was said earlier about a tax cut. And how do you pay for a tax cut? I think that's the wrong principle, because when you give people their money back, it's their money. You don't have to pay for it. That means the government owns all of our money if you look that way. All right. So we have to cut the spending, and a good way to start, there's a little embassy we built over in Baghdad. It cost us $1 billion. It's bigger than the Vatican. That's what's bankrupting this country, and that's the easy place to cut. That's where we should be cutting.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all humans are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
Is in a revolution. They're sick and tired of what they're getting, and I happen to be lucky enough to be part of it.
What if our foreign policy of the past century is deeply flawed and has not served our national security interests? What if we wake up one day and realize that the terrorist threat is a predictable consequence of our meddling in the affairs of others and has nothing to do with us being free and prosperous? What if war and preparation for war is a racket serving the special interests? What if the American people learn the truth?
We have allowed our nation to be overtaxed and overregulated and overrun by bureaucrats. The founders would be ashamed of us for what we're putting up with.
If you think our government should police the world and spend hundreds of billions of dollars on a foreign policy that we cannot manage, provide us, I believe that when we overdo our military aggressiveness, what it does, it actually weakens our national defense. I mean, we stood up to the Soviets. They had 40,000 nuclear weapons. Just come home. We just marched in. We just come home.
We can achieve much more in peace than we can ever achieve in these needless, unconstitutional, undeclared wars.
The principle, the moral principle, is that of defending liberty and minimizing the scope of government.
I think that's critical.
They have to have a document, a national special card. Absolutely.
A tamper-proof card, a database,
Name, date, birth date, biographic information.
Dr. Paul.
I am absolutely opposed to a national ID card. This is a total contradiction of what a free society is all about. The purpose of government is to protect the secrecy and the privacy of all individuals, not the secrecy of government. We don't need a national ID card.
Would you work to phase out the IRS?
Immediately.
The CFR exists, the Trilateral Commission exists, and it's a, quote, conspiracy of ideas. This is an ideological battle. Some people believe in globalism, others of us believe in national sovereignty. And there is a move on toward a North American Union, just like early on there was a move on for a European Union.
Inflation tax, it's a tax that nobody talks about. We live way beyond our means with a foreign policy we can't afford and an entitlement system that we have encouraged. We print money for it, the value of the money goes down, and poor people pay higher prices. That is a tax.
We've lost over 5,000 Americans over there in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and plus the civilians killed. How many more do you want to lose? How long are we going to be there? How long? What do we have to pay to save face? So what we must do is very simply the restoration of law, restoration of the principles of the Founding Father, restore the revolution that once started. Freedom is not something new and strange, and neither is it ancient. It's recent. Fortunately, the number of those who care are growing exponentially.
Paul won with 31%, beating out frontrunners like former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney, who received 22%.
President Obama has 42% of voter support, and Representative Ron Paul, 41%. Wow!